Today, I went on an amazing adventure. I visited a very famous market in Hyderabad, India. It's called Lad Bazaar. The market is right next to a huge, beautiful monument called the Charminar. Getting there was an adventure all by itself. The streets were full of auto rickshaws, cars, and lots of people. It was a little bit noisy, but so exciting. I couldn't wait to see what was inside this famous market. I had heard so many stories about the beautiful things you can find here. My heart was beating fast with anticipation. What would I discover today? As I stepped out of the auto rickshaw, my first thought was, wow! The entrance to the market looked like a gateway to another world. It was a narrow street and it was absolutely packed with people. Everyone was walking, talking, and shopping. The buildings on both sides were old and looked like they had many stories to tell. I could see bright colors everywhere I looked. Shiny fabrics, sparkling jewelry, and colorful decorations hung from every shop. It felt like I had walked straight into a rainbow. It was a bit overwhelming, but in the best way possible. I took a deep breath and started to walk down the main lane. The air was filled with a mix of different smells. I could smell sweet perfumes, spicy street food, and the scent of fresh flowers. It was a wonderful combination. The shopkeepers were all smiling and calling out to people, showing them their beautiful items. They were so friendly and welcoming. I felt like a real explorer, ready to see all the secrets the market had to hide. I knew this was going to be a very special day. My mission was simple: to explore everything. I wanted to see all the different shops and learn about the things they sell. Lad Bazaar is especially famous for its bangles. These are beautiful bracelets that come in every color you can imagine. I saw shops that were completely covered in bangles from the floor to the ceiling. It was an incredible sight. I decided to start my journey by looking at these famous bangles first. I wanted to see how they were made, and maybe even buy some to take home with me. Walking deeper into Lad Bazaar was like turning up the volume on all my senses. The sounds were incredible. I could hear the constant chatter of people bargaining for prices. I heard the cheerful shouts of vendors selling their goods. "Beautiful bangles, madam. Best price," one would say. Then I would hear the sizzle of hot oil from a food stall just a few steps away. Music played from small radios inside the shops, mixing with the laughter of children running past. It wasn't just noise, it was the sound of a place that was alive and full of energy. The sights were even more amazing. The colors were so bright they almost hurt my eyes. There were shops selling brilliant silk saris in deep reds, royal blues, and emerald greens. I saw piles of glittery powder used for decorations, looking like tiny mountains of jewels. The shops selling bangles were the most spectacular. They were made of lacquer, a special material, and decorated with tiny, shiny stones. When the light hit them, they sparkled and shone, creating a magical effect. It felt like I was walking through a treasure chest. And oh, the smells! The air was a wonderful perfume of everything all at once. From one corner, the delicious aroma of fresh biryani, a famous Hyderabadi rice dish, would drift towards me. Then, just around the bend, the sweet floral scent of jasmine garlands would take over. I also smelled incense burning, which added a smoky, spiritual fragrance to the air. It was a fantastic mix of spicy, sweet, and savory smells that made me feel very hungry and happy at the same time. Touching things was also part of the experience. I ran my fingers over smooth, cool silk fabrics. I felt the intricate, bumpy texture of embroidered cloths. The shopkeepers encouraged me to touch and feel the items. I picked up a set of lacquer bangles. They were surprisingly light but felt strong. Everything had a unique feel to it. The entire market was a hands-on museum where you were allowed to touch all the exhibits. It made the whole visit so much more real and exciting. As I explored, I found some really interesting and unusual things. It wasn't just about bangles and clothes. I found a small shop tucked away in a corner that sold traditional toys. These weren't plastic toys like we see everywhere today. They were handmade from wood and painted in bright, beautiful colors. There were little spinning tops, small wooden animals, and tiny kitchen sets. The shopkeeper told me that families have been making these toys for hundreds of years. It was amazing to see such a craft still alive and well. Another surprise was the food. I expected to find snacks, but I discovered some unique treats I had never seen before. One vendor was selling something called Osmania biscuits. They looked like simple butter cookies, but they had a special taste that was a little bit salty and a little bit sweet. They were perfect with a cup of hot chai, which is a spiced tea. I also tried a sweet dish called kubani kamitha, which is made from dried apricots. It was so yummy and different from any dessert I had ever tasted before. One of the most fascinating things I saw was a man making bangles. He wasn't in a big factory, but in a tiny workshop right there in the market. I watched him take the raw lacquer, heat it over a small flame until it was soft, and then skillfully shape it into a perfect circle. After that, another person would carefully stick tiny, sparkling stones onto the bangle. It was incredible to see how much skill and patience it took to make just one. It made me appreciate the bangles in the shop so much more, knowing they were all made by hand. The biggest surprise for me was finding a shop that sold old, antique items. It was like a mini museum. There were old coins, black and white photographs of the city from long ago, and even vintage perfume bottles made of delicate glass. The shop owner told me stories about some of the items. He showed me an old lock that was shaped like a fish. It was a puzzle to open it. Finding these little pockets of history in the middle of such a busy modern market was a real treat. It showed me that the market was not just a place to shop, but a place full of stories. My visit to Lod Bazaar made me feel so many things at once. I felt excited by all the energy and activity around me. I felt curious about all the new sights, sounds, and smells. At times, the crowds made me feel a little bit small but never scared. Everyone was so busy, yet there was a feeling of community. I was surprised by how friendly everyone was. Shopkeepers were happy to talk and explain things, even if they knew I wasn't going to buy anything from their shop. It made me feel very welcome. The experience was a wonderful surprise. I thought I was just going to a market to see some bangles. But it was so much more than that. It was a journey into the heart of Hyderabad's culture and history. I was surprised to learn how many things were still made by hand, using skills passed down through generations. Seeing the bangle maker at work was a real highlight. It reminded me that behind every beautiful object, there is a person with a special talent. It's not just a thing, it's a piece of art. In the end, I couldn't leave without buying a few things to remember my trip. I bought a set of beautiful deep blue lacquer bangles that sparkle when they catch the light. I also bought a small painted wooden parrot for my shelf at home. And of course, I got a box of those delicious Osmania biscuits to share with my friends. My bag wasn't just full of souvenirs, it was full of stories and memories from my amazing day. Each item will remind me of the vibrant, colorful, and friendly world of Lod Bazaar. What did I learn from my trip? I learned that markets are more than just places to buy things. They are living, breathing parts of a city's story. They are places where you can meet people, learn about traditions, and have a real adventure. My visit to Lod Bazaar taught me to look closer at the world around me, to ask questions, and to try new things. It was a fantastic experience, and I left with a happy heart, a full shopping bag, and a promise to myself to explore more amazing places like this.